Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis. What can summer camp professionals do to help society value youth development more?
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
This episode of the CampHacker podcast is brought to you by UltraCamp. Wouldn't it be refreshing if your registration software gave you more time? With UltraCamp, you can track attendance, manage staff applications, streamline registration, and much more. Get back the time you need to focus on what's really important, camp. Find out more at summercampsoftware.com/camphacker. Crazy Creek Products is proud to support the CampHacker podcast. They've been perfecting the just sit there mentality for campers since 1987. Come see them at the Tri-State and New England ACA shows in March, or call 800-446-3446, or find them online at crazycreek.com.
Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the Camp Hacker podcast. My name is Travis Allison from Go Camp Pro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm camp director of Camp Highlight, a sleepaway camp for kids who have LGBTQ parents. It is arguably the best camp in the universe.
My name's Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams Summer Camp and Retreat Facility, which is part of the United Church of Canada's camping network. And we're located in Fingal, Ontario, about halfway between Detroit and Toronto.
Excellent. Welcome to you both. We're sorry that Gab's not able to join us today. Campy stuff came up, but we want to spend some time in our penultimate episode of this season talking about a pretty big topic. I think I've said before clearly on the show and a number of other places that you may have heard me that part of the problem, part of the big struggles of our industry is that society in general does not value the work of youth development. We don't think it has a financial value, and so we don't invest in it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're wondering, what are some practical things that camp pros can do to change that attitude, to get involved in making big change like that, since it is really essential to the survival of our industry? Chris, is there stuff you've been thinking about this topic since we decided we wanted to talk about it today?
I think about this topic nonstop. I've been doing youth development work for over 30 years, and I think it's critically important. And maybe if you're listening to this, maybe I don't have to sell you, but the thing is, if you're listening to this, you should be selling other people. I think, honestly, after the years that we've had, after the concerns that we've had about socialization, education, both hard and soft, I feel like never before has the case for camp just sort of made itself. Being able to educate kids on how to live together, how to, live together is pretty top level. Like, let's get into the minutia, how to read social cues, how to enter and leave a conversation, like actually practically and directly discussing what polite means, what kind means. It seems to me that never before has this been so obvious. Like, what we do is so critical. And I think for camp people who are listening to this, if you've been anything like me for the last 30 years, your friends and family be like, oh, well, what do you do? I run a summer camp. Like, what? Who's doing that? What is that even like? I think now we really can hang our hat and be like, we're at the front lines on socializing and educating kids on things that are not hard science and hard art. We're doing all the soft stuff. And as you can see, because of the way that kids are struggling now as they're returning to school, that stuff is critical. And that's what camp and camp-like programs are here to do. That's how they fill the gap. And I have more to say, but I want to hear what Joe has to say.
I think the idea that it sells itself is the problem, right? This doesn't sell itself as much as it should, and as much as our society should value this. We know that teachers in a variety of settings are the least paid, right? Are one of the least paid careers we know that child development and early education is not given the same value as making money for shareholders and businesses, and we don't value it, and especially our friends to the south don't seem to have as much social safety nets in place to help families who are going to fall through and need the additional education. So as much as we say it sells itself, it doesn't. And that's what I think we want to get into today, is this idea that we need to sell the value of what we do to people. In every conversation we have, in everything we do, it's the same, at camp. How do you make sure that kids have a great experience? Every interaction at camp is the ability to make a great camp experience for a kid. So every interaction you have with your member of government, or with a local business person, or with a camper parent who you don't know who they know, to talk up the value of camp and how it's affected their kids. I think that once we see every interaction is important, because we think, I'm not sure about you two, but I think about camp all the time. Like it's my, except when I'm playing crokinole, but or scroll sawing. I don't think about camp when I'm scroll sawing, but the idea that we think about camp all the time, so we think others do too, and the answer is no, they don't. And I think that's the key, is we need to make sure that people talk about it.
I think but part of that key there is, Joe, is people understanding that camp is filling that niche. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I think that what I meant by selling itself is that, like, after the years that we've had, like the skills that we utilize and teach at camp are the very skills that people are name checking now. Like, oh, this is a problem for my child. Like, this is a problem for groups of children. So I guess what I'm getting at is, well, I lost my train of thought. Wait 1 second. But I guess what I'm getting at is, I understand what you mean. Like, oh, it doesn't sell itself, we've got to sell it. But I feel like that case is easier for us to make. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no argument there.
That's what I'm saying.
The pandemic, and especially we saw youth here at Pierce Williams a couple of weeks ago, and by youth I'm talking about high school youth. So 13 to 18-year-olds. They needed this, right? They craved it, and I think that that's what we're going to see when kids get back to camp for us this summer, at least.
One of the, there's so many pieces to this, but thinking sort of at a philosophical level or societal level before we hopefully come up with some practical pieces for camp pros to be thinking about and for camp organizations to be advocating for. One of the things that makes the value of youth development hard to understand or hard to put financial investment or time investment into as a society, not as camp people, but as a society, is why it's that our brains have such a hard time understanding the future. Like, we'll do things because it's now. Like, it's cheaper not to invest in this now. We save money by not investing in kids' education now. We don't see our future selves, our future society, and understand that investing in these things now costs so much less than dealing with the problems or the outcomes of not investing in this in the future. And this is a topic that I think we all understand. I just want to acknowledge that at the top, though. And that's sort of just a normal human psychology thing. But I guess what I want to open up and chat about with the three of us is what are the practical things? What do we do? We know that people devalue early childhood education. We know that people devalue the people that work in youth development, and all those things. So what are some practical things that we can do? I'll start us off by saying Joe had a very good point that part of it is making sure that local and people in politics that are close to you, whether it's municipal or federal or state or provincial, doesn't matter. But the people that are responsible for the politics near to you know what you do. And not only just know that this great kids program is there, because as Chris said, there's a lot of bias against people who work in youth programs, and people still to this day in my 50s say to me, you play games and sing songs for a living? None of us, we all know this is the
every
audience
Christmas.
Every
Christmas.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so we undervalue it. So I think people in politics need to not only know that our business exists in their region and that we support people from X region, but they need to see the changes that happen because of it. That there's a camp there is nice. That it takes care of kids, most people would understand and would appreciate and think it is just nice. But if we don't tell the stories of how camp changes kids, teens, young adults, to those people in power, then how do we do that? I feel badly saying that another part of our job should be political advocacy, but it should.
No, it should. Why would you feel badly about saying
that? Just adding more to the plate of camp directors who are already passionate people who are, stretched.
But it's our industry. And if we want the industry to continue, like this is the halls of power is how these things move. And especially our industries, we're so beholden to things like the way international visas work, et cetera, et cetera. Like we have to have a finger on the pulse of those things. To answer your question, though, I'm thinking marketing the results of what we do is really, I think that's part of the answer. And also not redefining, but sort of like shifting the way that we talk about it. I have been guilty of saying this in the past. Like I often say as a shorthand, like, oh, I'm in childcare. Oh, I'm in childcare, and everyone thinks again, every Christmas, oh, so you just play with kids, like you just play games and tag with them and that's your career. And I've been shifting it lately, just in my own circles. Like I'm an educator. Oh, you're a teacher? Sort of, but I don't work in a school. Oh, and then explain that to me, and then already the conversation's different because the person listening to me is entered in from a different place as opposed to like, oh, you play games. And it's like, yeah, I teach kids about courage and perseverance and responsibility. It's like, it sounds like you work at a camp. I do work at a camp, but also the thing is like marketing the results of that. There are so many like famous people and politicians who have like gone to camp and have talked about their experiences. And we need to really put a bullhorn in front of them. Again, and I hate to reference the pandemic because in America it's over now, so we don't like to talk about it anymore. But I hate to keep referencing the pandemic. But I think at this moment in time, like if we could reach out to powerful alumni and just really amplify their story. And I know that we do that as often as we can, but it's like this moment in time where I think it's in this moment of time we're near a fulcrum that we can really shift the way that we talk about our industry. And we should capitalize on that ASAP. And I think marketing, rethinking the way we market is on that path.
Just because Gab's not here, let me step in to say that there is this program that Gab's been incredibly involved in, has provided a ton of resources for the whole industry, the Thanks to Camp program, that is trying to use the power of social media to tell the stories of changes in people's lives thanks to camp. And so there is some existing tools that are, bigger than just what your camp can do. And the ICF has been, the International Camping Fellowship has been kind enough to pay for these resources to provide them to all camps. So I want to jump in with that. Crazy Creek chairs and products have been perfecting the Just Sit There brand for campers and staff alike since 1987. With new colors in stock for 2022, reach out to Crazy Creek today for summer 2022 season specials. Mention this ad when you email or call in and receive 10% off your entire order and free single color logo on your Crazy Creeks. No tool is more vital at camp than a Crazy Creek chair. Call 1-800-446-3446 or email chill@crazycreek.com to guarantee your chairs for the 2022 season. Did you know Crazy Creeks are given to campers at check-in at over 500 camps in the U.S.? Great camps like Philmont and Kanakuk include the chair in the camper's registration price and package. Add a free logo on the back and your camp name will stay with the campers for life. No one throws away a Crazy Creek. Joe, I could see that you had a thought too.
Yeah, I don't want to underplay the value of the small person sharing with someone else that why camp is special as well. Because if we only wait for the famous people, it's not going to have as big an effect. So we need to give our alumni tools about how to speak to people about the value of camp. In certain niches, So like Chris or like Rainbow Camp up here in Ontario, there's a niche that is easy for people to talk about, easier because they're in a certain community. And for us, it's this idea of, so first you have to have data to talk to people with, right? So you need to do parent surveys. You need to do camper surveys. You need to do staff surveys. And I say it in the need to because I'm still shocked that in this day and age, we don't ask for what we do well so that we can say we do it well. And it's not just us saying that we do it well. So I think that those surveys and then sharing that information in learning how to do a press release and maybe doing 12 press releases a year, one a month. A press release isn't extremely difficult to do. Knowing where to send it and knowing who to send it to might be the most difficult part. But your local nonprofit group probably has a list of your local media things. So for us at Pierce Williams, we approach Pillar. We're a member of Pillar Nonprofit, which is a local nonprofit group, and they have a list. They keep an up-to-date list of who all of the current media are, and we just copy, paste, and send the emails out. And I love this. So surveys is one thing because surveys are really a type of research, right? For us to validate what we do. And if I don't have a master's in anything, and I certainly don't have a PhD, but I know that research is valued, right? So if we can prove that the research is there and use those things. So thanks to camp we can also use the University of Waterloo's summer camp study that has been done. The ACA has a lot of resources and research about the value of camp. And those are all things that can be used locally for your own camp and for people to understand the value. And I just had this thought. In fundraising, there's this idea of the story of now. So when you're talking to people, there's three stories. The story of me, which is why I do what I do, the story of us, which is where camp is and how we got to where we are, and the story of now. So what is the need that we have now? And when you're talking to potential donors or potential people who are going to back your summer camp by saying that the camp is a valuable thing, talking in a sort of script like that, that you can create more easily is valuable as well, because what people need to know is the change that camp brings. Because I know I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't gone to camp, right? I wouldn't be me.
I love that. I think that really is important. I'm vibing with what you said about, not just the famous people, the small people as well. And I haven't thought about the survey thing in that degree, or at least its power in this realm. How do we get, I'm posing a different question now, but this has been on my mind is like when people talk about their achievements, they mention their degrees and where they went to school. Like I would love people to mention they went to summer camp because I think it's a different kind of person who goes to summer camp. It's a different kind of experience. And it could be day camp. It could be like a weekend summer situation. I think in my mind, I'm just thinking about like, this is a really pivotal part of people's development. And we either skip over it, or as Travis suggested earlier, we devalue it as sort of just like, oh, it's just a place to stash my kids while I go to work. And sometimes I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. Is it that the parents they're looking for childcare and camp seem to fit that bill? Or is it that after the kids come to camp and return home, there's not enough language for them to communicate to the parents, or we're not communicating enough to the parents what we imparted? Do you know where I'm going with that? Like, I'm just trying to figure out like, which part of that cycle do we interrupt and be like, no, actually what we're doing is X, Y, and Z. It feels like a heavy lift, but maybe not, right?
I don't think it's a heavy lift. I know that Matt Iskis Hansberger, or Wilfred, who's editing this podcast, when we talked about it when he worked here, is this idea that you just hand the parents the sheet, right? Like, here are the questions to ask your kid, right, about what their experience at camp was. Because we don't need to hide it, right? We just make it easy for parents to be like, oh, great. Because lots of camp, the industry itself downplays itself. right? There are lots of
Sure.
private camp owners who would say that 5 days at camp doesn't do anything. And I've sat through meeting after meeting with an older individual who's now passed away, who said, why don't we go back to just doing 8 weeks of camp? And I'm like, well, because that's not the way society works in the 2000s, right? Like, that's just not where we're at. And so, and my response has always been 5 days. I only went to camp for 5 days a summer, and here I am.
And me too. And like you, it completely changed set the path for me.
Yeah. So it's not a heavy lift in the sense that you can create that information, those questions for parents, and send it to them, either hand it to them on departure day, right? Ask your kid about these things, or send it in an email shortly after, right? The parent survey, we offer a free week at camp to people to one person, one lucky winner of the people who fill out the parent survey by a certain date. And with the camper data we have is campers don't get their dessert on Friday lunch until they fill out the camper survey.
That is the way to go. Yes.
And dessert is a fudgesicle. So kids go all
high motivation indeed.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Literally the treat on the stick that you're holding in front of them. I love that motivation. That's awesome.
I think how we frame the questions are important. So there is a difference in how we, and I know that Joe's board is doing a lot of work with a professional survey designer about, statistically significant, from creating questions that give you some statistically significant information. This is kind of different. Like, it's good to have those things. It's good to know that the research can stand up to scrutiny. But we need to ask simple things like, what has changed in your child because of camp? Because I agree that the data has to be there, but we have to then do something with the data and put it into something that's stories that people understand. And then we have to personalize that again by making that about individuals. Same as you're saying, Joe, with fundraising, we need to make this about one person. And so we have the stats, we back that up with the story of one person who matches that. So the proper question.
Do one a month, right? Like, highlight a camper or a previous alumni, right? Because alumni have the ability to talk more about, and alumni, I do not mean just camp staff. That is not the definition of alumni, people. Alumni is anyone who has ever attended your camp is a camp alumni.
Sure.
And don't let anybody tell you differently. But to highlight 12 of those people, 12 seems like a manageable number, doesn't it? Like, to do 12. Yeah.
Also, I want to, I'm always banging this drum, but we have to make camp more accessible, because I think, as it is, it's already seen as sort of like, especially sleepaway camps are seen as sort of like a privileged thing for privileged white kids who already have all the advantages. And I think for other communities, it's harder to make the case because you've got to sort of deal with that first. Like, oh, well, this isn't for us. This isn't for our family. This isn't for our community. And it's like, learning how to be a better person is actually for everybody. And we need to work harder on making it accessible so we can make that case, as opposed to saying this is for everybody. And it costs $1,400 a week. And, oh, I'm so sorry, you can't afford to come,
To push out into how camp, capital C camp, interacts with the world to help the world value youth development. And by the way, just the phrase of calling camp counselors youth development professionals is part of this process that people have acknowledged. And I mean, the first person who I heard say that directly was Michael Brandwine. I know that lots of us have picked up it because we've learned it from Michael. Many of you may have learned it from someone else who may have also learned it from Michael, but just that we have to start with respecting ourselves in the work that we do with something as simple as how we phrase things. But I think that it is worth it for camps to invest in relationships with other people who do youth development work, other recreation associations and companies, educators, obviously, that we would be smart, and this is the kind of thing that an association or a group of camps could invest time and money into together, is to basically create an advocacy group for for organizations that provide the service to society, so that we're bringing in not just camp voices, but that we are seeing partnered with educators and teachers and other rec programs that have a development focus, with youth sports, etc. All those places that kids can get all these important skills from, and we make relationships there, and we advocate together for the valuable thing that we do. I like that face, Chris. Tell me about it.
I think I've made this point in this podcast before, especially when we're talking about people from marginalized communities. Aligning with the school and the education system may not actually be the best way to go, because these are people who felt left out of that system, or harassed, or find that system hostile.
Yeah.
So
fair.
I sometimes shy away from being holding hands with schooling and being we're going to build a better child. I just prefer just not to reference it all and be listen, schools are doing their thing, which is very important, and we're doing our thing, which is very important. And I try to keep it, when I speak, I try to keep it independent, because I want to avoid, I want to avoid all of the garbage that comes from the education system. There's some good stuff. There's a lot of bad stuff about the way they allocate resources, the communities that they exist in, the state of those schools and those teachers, et cetera. I'd rather not be associated with that. There's so many failures on that side. So I prefer to make an independent case for why the skills that we're teaching can support and be supported by things that are happening in formal education. But an actual alliance with those systems, I think could be fraught for some communities.
Good. Thank you. Because I maybe that's sort of a different way that education works in different places too. For all of the schools in Ontario, all of our teachers get paid the same for every class across the whole province. So there's not less. I mean, there are definitely school boards or schools that don't have the resources because they have less kids. They're more rural, et cetera. So there's discrepancy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that
I was so shocked.
When we talk about education and camp and how we can partner with them, I toured Australian camps in 2013, and it's just part of their culture that kids go away to a one-night, overnight camp experience during the school year. And I think that it's a hugely valuable thing, especially in populations where we have a variety of new Canadians or new immigrants, families that don't often think more in the family setting than in sending their child away to somewhere, because one night seems doable, and that one night can lead to more nights in the future. But in Australia, it's just part of the culture. The school board doesn't pay for that trip. Parents just accept that that's going from every grade. I think from grade 4 and up. I think that it's just part of their culture, and it is. And I talked to my member of parliament about it, my provincial member of parliament, and he was fascinated by it. But it's a tricky. Politics is not where we want to get overly involved in this. What we really want to do is, as Travis said and Michael Brandwein says, is talk about ourselves with the same pride that someone who's a lawyer talks about themselves, or who's a doctor talks about themselves. When I cross the border to enter the United States and people ask me what I do, I say I'm a summer camp professional. Rarely do they act surprised. I've told them exactly what I do, and they're like, okay, great. Right? So knowing the phrase, right? Knowing not to apologize for what we do, say it and own it. I also wrote down one that's called Wear It. I have a whole bunch of t-shirts designs ready that are like, I'm a summer camp professional, right? And I just think that if the more we make it normalized that this is an actual job that thousands of people do across North America and around the world, right? Tens of thousands of people. I think that the more we normalize it and put it out there in front of people, wear your camp gear, tell them, be proud. If you have a weird camp hat, why not wear it on a plane, right? Like if I'm okay to start conversations with people, because many people hate their jobs. We are the chosen few thousand who love exactly what they do.
Wow, I never thought about that before. I've never met anyone who hates this. That's interesting. That's great.
Have you ever
Oh,
met
you're
somebody who's
right.
like, camp sucked? What they hate is what they tend to hate, Chris, is organizations, right? They don't
Sure.
feel valued in an organization. That's different than hating camp, because often those people go on to find another camp. And
Mhm.
it's all about finding your fit. But yeah, the Summer Camp Pros group is called the Summer Camp Pros group for a reason, people.
For that reason.
Call yourself that.
Mhm. No, I love that. Also, youth development specialist. I love that. I think starting next year, we're going to start calling our counselors that. Also, I don't know if this is related, but lately at our camp, we've been thinking about, well, I mean, only at my camp have we been thinking about attracting and retaining staff. I know that's a camp highlight problem only. And, part of it is that we've been thinking about, we need to begin to educate people on how to put this on their resume. Like we're writing a block that we're going to give to all of our staff. Be like, this is how you talk about what you did on your resume. And there's things like that. And when I go around to colleges and talk about opportunities, that's some of the things that I throw in there. Is like, this is going to look really good on your resume because these are the skills we're talking about. It's not just wiping noses and, marching kids in a line. It's program development. It's organization, it's project management, it's all these things. So it's a good case to make on that level too.
There's lots to talk about this, and hopefully it'll spurn some other conversations in the industry. If you have some feedback or some other ideas, please get in touch through me at travis@gocamp.pro. I appreciate the perspective of both of you on this. And I really do invite the questions and comments from all of our listeners or the folks that are watching us on YouTube too. Leave questions and comments there. We can come back and check in on that. I'm going to take just a second now before we do our tool of the week to thank our sponsor, UltraCamp. CampHacker listeners can discover the 10 best marketing tools and tips for camps by visiting ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker and downloading UltraCamp's free guide, The Marketing Toolbox. If you feel like you spend too much time in the office and you've got no time left for camp, then UltraCamp is created. It is the tool created to help you get the administration stuff done. So get out, get to talk to your kids, get to learn their stories, as we've been talking about today, so you can share them. UltraCamp created the software to help camp professionals like yourself handle camp registration quickly and efficiently. With UltraCamp, you get no limits on what reports you can run, the insights you can get, etc. You get unlimited custom reports, unlimited support, unlimited training, and unlimited users. UltraCamp's goal is to provide the best possible resources so that their clients can spend more time out at camp doing what they do best. If this doesn't sound like your camp registration software, I hope you think it should. Please visit their website at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker and set up a time to chat with them. They look forward to meeting you. So we will move on to our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
We have some interesting ones here. Joe, I'm going to start with you, please. What's your tool of the week?
My tool of the week this week is attached 2 episodes ago. I offered the book up called Imaginable by Jane McGonigal, and since then I've attended a couple of sessions that she's put on Zoom, and
Joe,
signed up.
Can I interrupt? Just give us the pitch on the book, just for those who are just coming in on this show.
So Imaginable is how to think about the future, how to imagine the future and not be surprised by it, right? So it walks you through the actual steps on scenarios and things, and it's a futurist. So Chris got excited when I said there's a place Jane McGonigal works at, the Institute for the Future, which it will be in the show notes as well. And what they've started is something called the Urgent Optimist Network, which is, I think I paid $99 for the year, but essentially it walks you through a variety of scenarios to get your creative mind working. And I'm trying to do this so that I can walk camp professionals through camping scenarios for what's 10 years ahead or 20 years ahead for us. So that I can learn and share this, because it's fascinating to imagine a future where we all get a medicine bag where we can grab any fresh fruits and vegetables, and that's paid for by our insurance program or our government, right? Because we want healthy people. But what does that change and how does that look? And so the Urgent Optimist is a place to share those. It's an online network, Mighty Networks, which GoCamp Pro has as well. And it is it's so far it's great. And I love just thinking about things differently and wondering about the future. So Urgent Optimist, which is attached with the Institute for the Future and the book Imaginable.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Chris, I'm going to give you the last tool, so I'll go next. I have a Mac app that is a super easy, really interesting, interactive way to set yourselves little reminders or to time things. Like I have to get on Zoom in 47 minutes. And so it's something that goes up in the toolbar of your Mac that you can just grab the circle, drag it down, and just the act of dragging that circle down will show you on your screen a certain amount of time. So you can just set a timer for the 47 minutes or 45 minutes so you have time to get water and go to the bathroom before your call. But it's quick, it's fast. It is called, I'm assuming it's Gestimer, since I'm sure the root is gesture. Anyway, so please go to camphacker.tv/podcast for the show notes, where I'll put a link to this really interesting, easy to use, interactive timer reminder tool for a Mac. Chris, your tool.
I just checked this out just as you talked about it. You didn't describe how cool this looks. Okay. So everyone check it out because it looks cool the way that you set the timer. It's like pulling a yo-yo and then it snaps back. About 8 years ago, I got this job. And when I started the job, they didn't have my computer ready. And it was very, very frustrating because I was working with like clients who had desperate needs. And I was like, well, listen, I've got to get a computer. So I was like, I took it upon myself. I didn't want to bring my laptop to work because like my laptop's like, honestly, the laptop's probably the most expensive single thing that I own in my house. So I was like, no, I'm not bringing this to and from work every day. So I bought a Chromebook. Chromebooks are just, put simply, they're just the Chrome browser in a shell. And why am I suggesting that you buy one? It's awesome and it's cheap. I bought a brand new one yesterday and it was like $200 and change. And not for nothing, it does everything that I need it to do when I'm on the go. The thing is this, it must be connected to the internet. But if you use Gmail or Google Drive, all your files are on it. You can update, upload things, whatnot. You can, if you have a device that you can, if you on like a thumb drive or something, you can watch video files on it. It's not a full computer. You can't have Word or Excel or any of those other things. But I find that especially now, especially with camp stuff, so much of what we do is in Google Docs and Google Slides and Google Sheets, that this is like the perfect tool. The caveat being, I know my Chromebook won't work at camp because we have some pretty significant internet blackout areas at camp. But outside of camp, it's a great thing. Like when I feel like I want to do some work on the train, I can grab it and I can have my files offline and work on it for an hour and a half and then come back home. And the price is 100% right. You know, growing up when computers used to take entire rooms, the fact that this thing cost me less than $250 and I'm like actively doing email and Zoom on it is phenomenal to me. So check it out. There are definitely some high-end ones. I do not recommend those because you should absolutely just buy a Mac or a PC if you're going to spend $1,100. But if you have like $150, $200 lying around and you just want something easy, you can throw it in a bag and forget about it. It's the Chromebook.
It's also interesting to note, Chris, that you can install a Chromebook operating system on old Windows laptops.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can repurpose. It's not fully like click and play yet, but we have 6 old laptops up at camp, and I've always been opposed to giving laptops to camp staff because they would walk away with them. That was always a fear, but now everybody has a laptop. So why is that a fear of mine? So the idea would be to install, just make them all Chromebooks, and have our staff, our leadership team do their stuff because we're on Google at camp, right? So
yeah. And if you have internet at your camp, if you are lucky enough to have internet coursing
If
over
the
the
pandemic
trees.
led you to getting grants for better internet at camp, then you're super awesome and lucky.
This would be a great thing to put in every cabin so people can do their notes, because that's the other thing that I hear from staff is that like having to come down to the director's cabin at 11 p.m. to type up notes is like, ugh.
Yeah.
So
very cool. Thank you both. Before we say goodbye, I just want to take a second and draw attention to another Go Camp Pro podcast. This morning, I got up and talked with Cassie and Rachel from our Beyond Camp show. We were having a little check-in about their season next year. Cassie, who is on the West Coast, got up at 6:30 to get on a call with Rachel and I first thing in the morning Ontario time, but really early in the morning BC time. Anyway, their show is really about the value that people who are involved in camp can take for the rest of their lives. They've done some excellent shows on identity, some excellent shows on the lessons that people have applied from camp, from being a camp person. They did an interview with one of our long-term editors, Etienne, who edits our Camp Code show. And it's just done some really interesting things this year and have some great stuff in store for next year. So search your podcast app for Beyond Camp and, think about some of the bigger picture ideas about what it means to be a summer camp professional. Chris, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, as always. I love being here.
Great. Take care, Joe. We're grateful to have you.
Grateful that you make this possible.
Right on. Thank you very much. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The CampHacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening. CampHacker, bringing your world into focus.
Hey Camp Pros, we love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, we hope that whenever you share an idea that you learned from the CampHacker podcast, conference, summer camp professionals group, or wherever else, that you're quick to give credit where credit is due. That way, we can all encourage more Camp Pros to share the tips and tricks that will make camp better.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.